Welcome to the lesson on how to use a traditional belly bind. So we'll be starting with an anchor point, which is one end of the bind being held above the head and one end being held at the pubic bone height. And as you can see, the main wrap then gets tightly wound around the mother's hips. So make sure that you have a good stance when the person wrapping you is binding around your hips so that you can have a good stance and it can be wound tightly. That first knot is really important to make sure that it's tight enough so that it will hold the rest of the bind in place neatly. So as you can see, the material gets overlapped over the previous bind and that anchor point simply goes down and back up, forming a nice neat knot, making sure that each of those knots are on top of each other, and you bind as tightly as feels comfortable for you. This bind is made from cotton and is about 10 to 12 meters long or 11 to 13 yards. So it's very customizable. As you can see, it takes the shape of the mother's body. And it's one of the main benefits of this type of bind because you can make it as tight as you like. So here you can see more of a close-up view of what's going on with the material being spread and overlapped and wrapped around the body. And then that anchor point simply just going down and back up to form that little knot in the middle of the body. Each of those knots are kept vertically on top of each other. It should feel really supportive. And basically that movement gets repeated over and over. So it's quite simple once you get the hang of it. Initially in postpartum, you'll probably want someone to help you do this bind. And there is a sense of reverence and ceremony around applying it too. Especially if you use warm oils or herbs and spices on the abdomen before wrapping the bind. So the act of taking a few minutes to put it on can be a very nurturing experience. But as your muscles become stronger, it is possible to bind yourself. So it's easier if you can look at yourself in a mirror so you can keep the knots on top of each other. So you can see the bind taking shape. It's a very beautiful bind. It does look like a cotton corset, and you can even wear it out and about just as is. The belly bind helps provide back support, improve posture, it stabilizes loose ligaments, and it does assist your organs to return to their original position that they were in before you got pregnant. So one of the main reasons that women enjoy belly binding after birth is because it can feel really good as the binding is supportive and grounding for the nervous system. And it can be used within a few days after a vaginal birth, but if the woman has had surgery, she should wait around 6 weeks before using the bind. So as you can see, we are nearly getting to the end of this bind, so soon I'll show you how to tie it off. You can see that the full torso is covered, and that's one of the great things about this bind is that it does provide support for the hips but all the way up the torso. And to finish off, we're simply going to do a double knot. And so here's the first knot, just to make sure it's tight and held in place, and simply do a double knot, and then with each end they can just be tucked in to the bind. So that is how to use a traditional belly bind during your postpartum time.